In this video, I'll show you how to start making animation in Blender, how to understand animation, how to keyframe objects. This video will be an introductory tutorial and we will learn how to give basic movements to objects. Before we get into the basics of animations, the most important thing we need to know is FPS. In other words, we need to determine the number of frames per second first. By default, Blender presents it as 24. You can also see this in the output properties screen. Here, as frame rate, it is set at 24 FPS. The number of frames per second is set to 24. You will see the play buttons just below the screen. Let's drag these play buttons upwards by clicking the line at the top. Here you will see a timeline. We'll see keyframes in this timeline shortly. Currently on this screen, there are 250 frames. If I do this 24, it will be 24 frames per second. So, when I press the play button, our animation will be completed in a second and it will go back to the beginning. If I do 48, it means it will be 2 seconds because there are 24 frames in a second. That means 2 seconds at 48 frames. I'm doing this 100. The shortcut to start playing is the space key. You can play the animation in the scene by pressing the space key, then you can pause by pressing the space key again. Let's make an animation with a very simple technique. Let's move the timeline to the beginning. I choose the move tool. This is my object. There is a small keyframe icon here. When you click this icon and move the object on the scene, it will automatically add a keyframe to the timeline. I'm showing you right now. I activate it and move the object slightly to the left. When I move the object to the left, the keyframe is automatically created here because this button is active. This keyframe determines its position when the object is here. I'm scrolling the timeline forward. In frame 50, I change the position of the object. Since this button is active, it automatically created a keyframe. The first keyframe is here and the position of the second keyframe is here. So when I replay the scene from the beginning, it will move from the first frame to the second frame. So this will also provide the animation. This is the basic logic of animation. It consists of keyframes. We can create animations by moving in this way. Since this button is active, if we change its position, it will move from the first frame to the second frame and then the third frame. Let's examine this right now. It has moved from the first frame to the second frame and it will move from the second frame to the third frame. In the most basic way, this is how animation is created. So what did we animate here? To find out, I move the little arrow on the left to the right. I open the left side. By opening them, we can learn the details. I can see from here that I moved it on the x-axis from the first frame to the second frame. I also moved it from the second frame to the third frame on the y-axis. When I select and collapse the keyframes like this, the keyframes move faster as they get closer to each other. This movement slows down as they move away from each other. So from the first frame to the second frame, it will be faster. And from the second frame to the third frame, our movement will be a little slower. As you can see, it arrived at the second frame quickly and reached the third frame much more slowly. Of course, even if we don't open the details, we can move it from here. Now I right click on the object and you will see an insert keyframe option. The shortcut for the insert keyframe option is the letter I. When I press the letter I while the object is selected, it will show me the properties and options of the insert keyframe menu. When I press the letter I, some words will appear. Location, rotation and scaling are the basic features we will use for motion. We just gave a keyframe to location in the animation we made. I reset the scene. Let's expand the bottom part again. Now I want to keyframe both location and rotation. So I press the letter I on the keyboard and choose location rotation. I choose this. It assigned keyframe when I selected it. And with this keyframe, the keyframe you see on the right has given both location and rotation. The yellow colors here mean that these properties of the object are keyframed. When the timeline is exactly over it, you will see yellow. When I change the position of the timeline and there is no keyframe there, you will see green this time too. Now I'm dragging the timeline slightly forward from the start. I click on frame 48. I move the object and at the same time rotate the object with rotation. We both rotated the object and changed its positioning. And because I want to add a keyframe at this position, I press the letter I from the keyboard again. And I add the keyframe to the location and rotation pair by clicking this option. It is expected to move from its starting position by returning here. I am moving the timeline to the beginning. I see that it has successfully moved from frame 1 to frame 2. Since we don't give sizing, if we make a sizing here, it will not be valid. Here is how we are going to include sizing. I move the timeline over the previous frame and press the letter I on the keyboard, and this time select location, rotation and scale. When you choose this, see on the right, it will automatically include scale in this group. When I operate on scale in the next frame, I'll be able to give scale a keyframe. Because this scale option also has the first keyframe, it has the starting position. Now I click on the second keyframe and resize it here. Let's enlarge the object and press the letter I again and want to include the scale here. So now it looks orange because it doesn't have a keyframe. We choose location, rotation and scale to add its keyframe. Orange is gone and replaced by the colors above. So now we have keyframes in all three properties. I move the scene to the beginning and play it. As you can see, we have included the scale as well as the location and rotation we have just given in this animation. If I edit the object in another way and apply similar properties in the future, this time from the second keyframe to the third keyframe will complete this animation. Let's do a quick example. I move the timeline to another location ahead of the second frame. I reduce the size of the object, rotate it and change its position. I get it here and right click. I choose location, rotation and scale option. As you can see, a new keyframe has been added here. Here we can see which ones are included in this keyframe. We can understand from here. Or alternatively, I can open object transforms and see which ones have keyframes. When I replay the scene, it will reach the second keyframe first, and then the third keyframe. We can also hide these animations from the left side. We hide the movement like the object hides it. For example, let's hide the position change. I'm closing location X, Y and Z. I'm playing now. As you can see, since the position doesn't change, only the rotation and resizing operations are active. So here arrange the animation accordingly. If you click lock icons here, it means that we can't provide keyframes for these features and we can't edit keyframes. So how else can we create these keyframes? Let me talk about those too. For example, there was a glow effect that I showed in my previous videos. There was a glow effect on objects. Let me show you animation and movement over that effect. First, we open the material properties of the object. I click on material properties. I change the surface part to emission and then go to render properties and activate the bloom effects. If you don't see this corresponding in the scene, we need to change the display options. I choose the one on the right and this is how I see the glow. By increasing the strength value on the material, we can make this shine even stronger. Now let's try to animate this strength value. Our purpose is to show how to keyframe properties whose values can be changed. And I think it might be self-explanatory enough with this glow animation. Let's close the object transform section on the left, because when we give animation on this effect, we will see other things here. I move my mouse cursor over the strength value and press the letter I on the keyboard. What was this? It was the insert keyframe property and the cursor will almost try to insert a keyframe over it. When I press the letter I on the keyboard above the strength value, it will turn yellow and a new feature will be added on the left, material property. The reason it is material is because we are currently in material named material. If I change its name to material 2, its name in the timeline will also change. So the name here is taken from the material name. I'm deleting number 2. When we look at the details of the material, we see that the default value of strength is assigned as the keyframe. Likewise, when I click on color and press the letter I on the keyboard, this time it will show me the RGBA values. We can change color in this way. We can even use this animation to change the color of the glow effect at the same time. I click on the second keyframe and increase the strength value there. When I increase the strength value, I press the letter I on the keyboard. We can right click and select insert keyframe. It added a new keyframe here. We are going to see this flare from frame 1 to frame 2. Let's see now. While there is no glare in the first frame, this brightness increases in the second frame. If we look at the strength value, we can also see the transition in between. I want it to change color here too. Let's change the color, make it blue and press the letter I on the keyboard. We also assigned keyframes to the colors. So we see a glow effect turning from here to blue. Let's do all three to understand more clearly. I'm increasing the strength value a little more. I press the letter I on the keyboard and this time I make it red. I press the letter I again from the keyboard. While it is empty in the first keyframe, the glow effect will start and turn blue in the second keyframe. In the third keyframe, the glow effect will increase and become red. I move the timeline to the first frame and play it. It became blue and then it became red. In this way, we can assign keyframes to any property whose values we can change. Basically, this is how animation is done on Blender. I touched on the most basic points in animation. That's all for this video. If this video helped you out, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.